What's up, YouTube, and welcome to this week's version of Gods Unchained Market Watch. I'm your host, UGGU, and today we're going to go over all of the notable market movements that have happened this past weekend in Gods Unchained. So, happy release week. Hope everyone had a great Mortal Judgment release weekend. It's the wild, wild west out there, y'all. What I mean by that is except for War, every god has a deck that is competing for top deck in the meta right now. And that's pretty nice when you have that much variety. I'm still working on seeing if War has anything, but I think there is some potential there. Although, if y'all have been paying attention to the new patches, they just nerfed Sign of Strife and Volcaz, and that could possibly be a detriment to whatever archetype they're doing. But I mean, the devs said they're going to be buffing those cards, so keep an eye out for War cards in the near future. Anyways, we have a lot to cover these next couple weeks for this video, so I'm just going to go ahead and get started with it. Our first card is going to be Untold Greed for the Death class. 1 mana spell, destroy target friendly creature, draw 2 cards. Dude, this thing spiked like crazy. It went from $10 all the way to 40. That's insane. What do I think about this? Well, I mean, obviously with the new Anubian decks coming out, you're definitely summoning some, expendable 1 mana creatures. Untold Greed is a perfect way to proc any of effects. Priestess of Takat, Raging Necromancer, Skull Scepter, basically anything. So you do see that increase. It is a Genesis set rare, so there's some scarcity there, which I understand. So $10 to $40, that's pretty insane. The cheapest you can find this card at right now is $40. Ragnarok is also on the list. Deal 3 damage to each god and give burn 3 to each creature. This serves as a 1 mana deal 3 and another way to proc all of your basically burn effects or death effects. Skull Scepter, Priestess of Takat, Raging Necromancer, all that stuff. The cheapest you found this card at is $29.15. It peaked at $32, and it rose from $16, so it doubled in price. That's pretty insane. Next up on the list, we have Siren of the Grave. This is a 1 mana 2/2 roar. Obliterate a card in your hand. Afterlife, all enemy creatures go to sleep. This card is a sleeper. Anyways, this card is good. It's usually a linchpin in board wipe death, but I think Aggro Deception or Aggro Death has been using this as well. It's a solid 1 mana 2/2. You do have to obliterate a card in your hand, but the sleep effect is pretty good in my opinion. Anyways, we do see an increase in volume here. The cheapest, it went from pretty much $11 all the way to $19, and it's currently sitting at $18.77. Next up, we have good old Faustian Pact. Faustian Pact raised in price a little bit. It is a 3 mana spell. Draw 9 cards at the end of your turn. Obliterate your hand. I really like this card, especially in aggressive death decks where you're constantly playing minions, and the average mana costs of the cards in your deck are like 1 to 2 mana. So the new Anubian deck kind of fits within that category. You can basically spend your whole hand, play Faustian Pact, try to capitalize on your board. Maybe you throw in a Necronomics in there so you get a refill on mana so that you can refill your board the same turn you play Faustian Pact, and then mitigate that obliterate effect that happens. But yeah, I think it's a solid choice in a deck that needs a refill option. Next up, we have Skull Scepter. This is a 2 mana relic, 0/1. After one of your creatures die, deal 1 damage to your opponent's god. This obviously fits within the new Anubian deck that has come out. It was $4.24 in April 11th, and now it's hovering around that $11.26. It's a little bit of a buyout, though. You're seeing some resistance here. That's 20 cards sitting at that $11.20 price point. Next up, we have Catacomb Curator. This is another card that made its way onto the top Anubian 1 mana cost deck list. It's a 1 mana 1/2, obliterate a card in your hand, afterlife draw a card. Obviously, the roar effect is kind of bad, but the afterlife effect can net you a lot of advantage, especially if you're playing a lot of cards that revive 1 mana creatures from your deck. Which Anubian Death decks do. Cheapest you can find this card at is, oops, I didn't convert it, $5.52. Its lowest price was $2.68 before the spike, so that was pretty interesting. Inflamed Self. This is an interesting one. 1 mana, deal 2 damage to your god. During your opponent's next turn, creatures that attack your god are given burn +2. Draw a card. I think... Well, one, it's a good way. It's a 1 mana card, so you can play this in conjunction with any of your lower cost cards, and it serves as a form of pseudo removal. Basically, if they're not trading into your minions and they're going face, they're also losing their creatures from burn. So that's something, and it's also a form of cycle. So it can serve as a utility card, especially in aggressive Anubian Death decks. Which is why it made it to some of the top performing lists this weekend. The cheapest you can find this card right now is $5.10. Damn. Used to be a $2 card, which is something. Priestess of Takad. Good old Priestess of Takad. This is your 1 mana 2/2 Anubian. The linchpin of Anubian Death right now. In my opinion, yeah, you can find this card. It's actually kind of stabilized at this 480 range, 480, 470 range. The cheapest you can find this card right now is 470. But look at this resistance, y'all. It's about 20 cards, maybe more, 30 cards hovering at this price point. So we'll see if this price range holds. Next up, we have Land of the Dead. This is your 6 mana spell. Select up to 6 1 mana Anubians from your void and summon them to the board. Not bad, not a bad finisher. Or not a bad refill for a board. 6 mana means you're waiting at least 6 turns with a bag of tricks, 7 if you don't. The current price you find this card right now is $4.72. The cheapest you can find it is $4.85. Burrowing Scarab saw an increase in price over the weekend, and some Anubian Death decks were running this card. 2 mana 1/1 Anubian. Afterlife, both players draw 2 cards. Cheapest you could find this card right now is $4.58. This is another solid draw option for Anubian Death, in my opinion. One, Burrowing Scarab is Anubian, so it gets a couple of the buffs. Not all, but a couple, because it's only 2 mana and not 1 mana. However, it serves as a great way to refill the board, refill your hand, right? You summon this Anubian. It's a form of card. It's a card that can, die. And it can proc your Skull Scepter, Priestess of Takad, Raging Necromancer, all that good stuff. Dangerous Ritual also saw an increase in price. This is your 2 mana, deal 4 damage to each god, draw a card. This serves as a form of burst damage for aggressive death decks. And yeah, you can currently see that it's hovering around that 145 range. Yeah, that's all I have to say about the card. I think it's a solid choice for burn and cycle within a deck that needs burn and cycle, so makes sense. Okay, moving on to our deception cards. First up, we have Merrick, Keeper of Many, and this card saw a huge spike in price. It went from $5 on 420, nice, to $18.39. 426. The cheapest you can find this card right now is $18.83. What do I think about this card? I think it's really good in Guild Deception. Honestly, Aggro Deception is one of the top tier contenders, and this is one of the cards that makes it. Why? Merrick is a good card. The hidden effect means it's very durable, and it can tack on some crazy amount of damage depending on the minion that attacks before it, right? So, good card in Guild Deception and Aggro Deception. Next up, we have Shadow of Lethanon. This is our 1 mana 1/1 Nether. At the end of your turn, this creature gains hidden. At the start of your turn, this creature deals 1 damage to the opposing god. If your opponent doesn't have an answer for this card, it will do a lot of damage in a short amount of time because it deals 2 damage per turn. But if you get, I don't know, if you get a buff on this card, maybe from either a Dark Knives or something along those lines, that 2 damage per turn somehow becomes like 4 to 5 damage per turn, and that can be lethal. Haha. Cheapest you can find this card right now is $17.84. Over the weekend, it did spike to about $28. That's insane. Next up, we have Labyrinth Minotaur. This card saw a little bit of a buyout. The cheapest you can find this card right now is $15.30. But maybe about a day ago, before the buyout happened, it was about $8.71. The volume tells me that we won't be seeing a lot of activity and this buyout might not hold, but this card is pretty decent in my opinion. It's 6 mana, which is really expensive, but it's 6 mana 4/7, pick 1, attack an enemy target creature or gain hidden for 1 turn, and that can have some implications, especially if you're running this card as like a big finisher for your deck. Next up, we have Selfless Guildmate. This is your 1 mana 1/1 guild creature hidden for 1 turn. Give 3 strength to another one of your guild creatures. Pretty good card. 1 mana, basically 4/1, right? Because you're giving 3 strength and then plus its regular stat line, so 1/1. So it's a 4/1 worth of stats. And it works with Merrick, but you don't want to play this on Merrick because Merrick's strength is based on the creature that attacks before it. So you'd want to play this on another guild creature that can support the Merrick. Very good card. It's a solid option. The cheapest you can find this card right now is $2.75. Okay, so Ludian Thespian is on the list for Deception. This is our first Mortal Judgment card of the... Might not be, but anyways, it's a 4 mana 3/1, Echo, Tempt Fate, Roar. Give 3 strength to another one of your creatures. Tempt Fate is... I think Tempt Fate is actually a very solid mechanic. Echo is also very good. The 1 mana 1/1 does the same effect as Ludian Thespian. So there are a lot of ways to buff, your minions as Deception. And the fact that it's an Echo means you can tack on a lot of damage in 1 turn if you have at least 5 mana, so that can be something to keep an eye on. Cheapest you can find this card right now is $2.87. Moving on to our light cards. So Light Ascended is our first one. We have a 6 mana Light Ascended Solace. Give each friendly creature 2 health. Your god power becomes Shine. There's a buyout here that happened on April 23rd. The cheapest you can find this card right now is $36.67. And it spiked from $27.56. What do I think about the card? So I'm going to go ahead and look up Shine real quick just to jog my memory. God Power Shine, right? God Power Shine. Gods Unchained. Okay. Let's see this. Shout out to GU Cards. Summon 2 Will-O-Wisps. Okay, that's not bad. You get to summon 2 Will-O-Wisps. The Will-O-Wisps have Ward, so 2 1 mana 1/1s with Ward. Okay. I actually think this card can be a great finisher. If I'm playing aggro light, I'm running this card in a meta where control decks are running rampant and you're expecting to go to late game. So this can be a good card in aggro light decks or just light decks in general, depending on the matchups that you're expecting in the metagame. That's all I'm going to say about this card. It seems like a speculation call just based on how much volume's been happening. But I mean, if the meta gets slow or slows down, this can definitely be an option for aggro light. Next up, we have Triumvirate Prophet. 3 mana 2/2 1/2. Give the chosen one Afterlife. This creature's strength and health. Give this creature's strength and health to the new chosen one. That's a pretty interesting effect, honestly. It's a 3 mana 2/2. Oh no, it's a 2 mana 2/2 Mystic now, which has some kind of It's a buff to Chosen One decks for sure. We do see an increase in price here. 23 copies were bought today. Yep, 23 copies were bought today. And the spike happened from $1.44 all the way to $3.11. The cheapest you can find this card right now is $3.86. Onto our magic cards. We have Circe, Vengeful Sorceress. This is a 7-mana 3/3 Olympian. Roar, deal 3 damage to each enemy character, 4/C3. I think this card has always been good, especially in ramp decks. I think with the addition of Alistrina, only time will tell if ramp decks get a buff from that. I mean, Alistrina really does buff ramp decks. Like, let's be real. All your 6-mana cost cards, you can play 2 turns earlier. And that's insane. Well, technically you can't, right? Because Alistrina's 5 mana now. So, but for your 7 mana cards, you can play them 2 turns earlier. And for your 8 mana cards, you can play them 3 turns earlier, vice versa, right? So on and so forth. Anyways, the cheapest you could find this card right now is $37.32. It spiked from $99 all the way back to $133. That's wild. Another card that has seen an increase in price. Good old Equivalent Exchange. I like this card a lot. I think it's very strong in Ramp Magic. I'm going to be saying this until, we see a list that runs a top ramp Magic list that runs this card, because it's insane for the objective that the deck is trying to accomplish, right? It's a 3-mana, unlock 2 mana locks for the price of 2 cards. What you gain out of this is you're ahead 2 mana locks from your opponent, and you have an additional turn to play whatever you want next turn, right? Versus having to wait 2 turns to play a sip of elixir plus a sip of elixir, so on and so forth. So I think this card is really good in Ramp Magic. If Ramp Magic becomes meta, this card should see an increase in play. Should. The Obliterate effect is negligible depending on how you build the deck. I'm not going to go into details because you can check out my other videos on that. I have a video on Equivalent Exchange and why it's good. But yeah, the cheapest you can find this card right now is $25.25, and it spiked all the way from $12. That's wild. All right, next up we have Magic Inks. This is your 2-mana spell. Create a base copy of the lowest cost spell in your hand. Yeah, Dralamar combos, anyone? Yeah, this card is good. It procs. If this is the only card in your hand and you play Magic Inks, you get another Magic Inks, and that can serve as so many meme moments. Anyways, I think the card is really good, especially in OTK decks. The cheapest you could find this card right now is $10.23. It spiked from $6 all the way to that price point, so that's wild. Faraday Cage saw an increase in price a couple of days ago. So this card is a 4-mana spell. Target a creature, deal 2 damage to each other creature. It basically saves the creature you target. So it could be very good, in my opinion. There could be some situations where it's useful. In some decks where, like, for example, if you have a Demetrios and you want to keep it alive, you play Faraday Cage, target the Demetrios, keep it alive, all that good stuff, right? For 4 mana, a 2 damage AoE is pretty nice. The cheapest you could find this card right now is $6.66, and it spiked all the way from $4. All right, next up on the list, we have Murdo's Daughter. This is our 5-mana 2/2 Amazon. Blitz, Roar, pick 1. This creature gets 2/2, or another random friendly Amazon gets 4/3. This card, you get a lot of value for what you do for this card. It can either be a 5-mana 4/4 with Blitz, or it could be a 5-mana 2/2 with Blitz, but also buffs one of your friendly Amazons, so they're able to attack again, right? Or they're able to attack with a buff. So pretty good in my opinion. It did see a spike on April 22nd, and it went all the way up to $24.18. The cheapest you could find this card right now is $14.80. It's one of the more expensive Genesis commons right now. Next up, we have Agridor Protector. This is our 4-mana 3/5 Amazon Frontline Regen 1. Genesis card. Spiked all the way to, spiked all the way to $6.21 from $3.95. The cheapest you could find this card right now is $3.71. What do I think about the card? I think it's a decent card. 4 mana of 3/5 with Frontline and Region 1 is very good, especially in the new decks that, buff creatures or create an effect where whenever a creature is healed. Aggrador Protector is a good addition to any of those decks running Dagon, Dahlia, or Spite Silk? Silk Spite? Silk Spite. I think it's Silk Spite. Anyways, moving on to the next card. We have Primal Guidance. This is our 1 mana spell. Deal 2 damage to a random enemy creature. If you control an Amazon, deal 3 damage instead. Obviously, this card is made for Amazons. It's a very efficient form of removal. 1 damage or 3 damage for 1 mana is very good. The cheapest you can find this card right now is about $1.61, spiked all the way to $2.81 over the weekend. I'm going to check my settings real quick, making sure audio's doing well. Okay, audio's doing well. We good. Next up, we have Unrestrained Power. This is our 3 mana spell. Give 2 strength to your relic, empower 3, then double the strength of your relic. I am a fan of this card because it has a lot of potential. Not gonna lie. Give 2 strength to your relic is kind of lackluster for 3 mana, but the empower effect, then double the strength of your relic, can make for a very big relic. And if your opponent isn't running relic removal, they're going to be in trouble. Imagine doing this on a Scythe of the Harvest, which has 4 strength. So you get oh my god, yeah, your Scythe of the Harvest becomes a 12/2. You can even use this on a Valka's Axe for the memes. Combine it with a Whetstone, and yeah, that's pretty nutty. Anyways, we do see an increase in price here. Jumped from 58 cents all the way to $1.12. The cheapest you can find this at is $1.19. If you want to break the bank and be a big spender, definitely spend on this card. Next up, we have Mobilize. It's a 2 mana spell. Reduce 1 by 1 the cost of Empower cards in your hand. Empower 4. First, draw 3 cards. I'm a fan of the Empower archetype because of this card. This card is very good, especially because you can run 2 of this. If you have 2 of these in your hand, you basically reduce by 1 the cost of the other Mobilize, and then that'll allow you to possibly set up to run the Empowered effect. Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of cards that discount other cards for mana. I think it's a very strong mechanic in games like Gods Unchained and Hearthstone, and this card is no exception. Imagine having a handful of Empower creatures and just going to town. So there is some value with this card. Now let's see. Now let's see the price range real quick. So it jumped all the way from $1.65 to $1. The cheapest you could find this card right now is $1.24. Okay, moving on to Ocular Fiend, our neutral minions. 6 mana 3/3 wild. Roar, add a rune to your hand. For each rune in your hand, deal 1 damage to a random enemy creature and give this creature 1/1. That's so interesting. I wonder why the buyout happened or why people are buying this card. I don't think it's good. Yeah, you get to add a rune to your hand, but it's a 6 mana 4/4, and that could have some bad implications. Anyways, I don't like the card. The cheapest you could find this at is $13.68, which is good. It spiked all the way to $14 over the weekend. Yeah, I mean, it's a okay card. It doesn't seem very appealing to me. Next up, we have Frumentari Instigator. This is a 4 mana 3/4 guild creature. Roar, draw a card for each other guild creature on the board. This card saw an increase in play due to the aggressive deception decks that have been emerging this past weekend. The current price you can find this card at is $4.38, but before this weekend, it was actually at $2.23. So that's saying something. Anyways, what do I think about this card? It's a great way to refill your board, especially if you're running a lot of guild creatures, and it fits well within the new aggressive deception guild decks. And last but not least, we have Nimble Pixie. This is our 1 mana 1/1 Amazon with flank, roar, summon Nimble Pixie. I think this card is a good addition to or a decent 1 mana option for aggressive Amazon decks. Because it summons another Amazon that's a Nimble Pixie, it has a lot of implications there. The cheapest you could find this card right now is $2.37, but over the weekend it spiked all the way to $4.82. And that concludes our market watch, y'all. If you want my closing thoughts, what do I think about everything right now? Well, it's the wild, wild west. I think a lot of the cards are still in price discovery, but where also the player base is still in meta discovery, yeah? So we don't know what the top decks are yet. The devs are still trying to figure it out. Also, there are a couple of balance patches that are coming out in the near future, so the metagame is always going to shake up. In terms of what decks to watch out for, definitely watch out for Deception, Death, Light, I mean, heck, even Magic, Nature, oh my god. Not War, but I will say something about War. I think there's a big opportunity if you have like, extra Gods tokens to spare, like look into some War cards that you feel like are good, because if War gets a buff, which the devs have said they wanted to do in the last patch notes, War is one or two or three card buffs away from becoming meta again. So, and War has a lot of strong cards in the class, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see a reemergence maybe sometime later down the line. Anyways, that's all I have to say. Of course, this isn't financial advice. Don't listen to a guy talking about NFT cards on YouTube. Yeah, this is not good. But I will say, if you did like the content, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below, yeah? Thank y'all for tuning in. Really appreciate the time, and I'll see y'all next week. Peace.